Eureka!
Hey guys, how y'all doing? Is this like a strip show? Let's get pumped. Okay, after the show. That's right. Strips, we'll find out later. Welcome to Eureka, guys. We totally are pumped that you're all out here. Who's here for the first time? Sweet! Awesome. And who here, obviously, is not? Make some noise. Nice. All right.
Maybe we should get through the format, let them all...
Yeah, let them know the deal. So yeah, this is a fun, interactive science comedy show. So you guys will be asking questions. Our guest speaker will be asking questions of you. And if you get the question right, you win a silly, fun, theme-appropriate prize. Yeah. Oh, careful. So let's practice that action. I'm going to ask you a question, see if you can get it. I just looked this up. What is the name of Donald Trump's dog?
No one gives a fuck? Money.
No, not that.
Typically what the process looks like is you raise your hand and come up to you.
That's right.
Bitch.
Bitch? You get a prize, that's correct. It's a patent, but I think everybody gives his bitch. So, good job. What is it? Well, that's a good one. I was going to say Steve Bannon, but you know, whatever works. Okay, you got it. You guys, they're ready, I think.
I think they are ready.
They're very ready.
So, as you guys know, some of you guys are new, so I'll go ahead and mention it again, but our mission is to demystify science in ways that are relatable, educational, entertaining. And this is interactive, so please raise your hand, engage with our comedians and with our scientists as well as ourselves, please, and have a good time, yeah?
Yeah! All right, let's start this puppet, yeah? We're going to start by introducing the comedians for tonight. First, I'm going to turn on my clicker, and then magic.
Well, I was going to say, while you do that, let me just mention.
Oh, you want to mention your shirt?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
So we're about to do a feed in March. We do a feed for every shirt that we sell. We feed people that are food insecure. Our shirts are available over there. The front is a brain with Eureka on the back. Is one of our favorite people ever. I think some guy Einstein.
Yeah. I have no special talent except for me and my stripping. I'm only passionately curious, Albert Einstein.
Yes. Happy birthday, Albert.
Happy Pi Day.
Your birthday's on Pi Day? Wow.
It is.
Thank you.
Perfect place to be. You got Washington. I'm waiting. Okay. We could be here all day. All right. Let's start by introducing the comedians. Let's bring out Imran G, everybody. Come on down, ready? Imran. And then let's bring out Florentina. Come on out. Yay! Great. How are you both doing?
Doing great.
You guys are like the twins.
Yes, we look very similar.
I can tell.
We have the same backpack. So.
Oh, absolutely. All right. You guys are these are both great comedians in the Bay Area. You got any shows you want to shout out before we jump into this?
I will be at Rooster Teeth Feathers all next week with Andrew Schultz, so if you guys want to come out, let me know after the show. It's going to be a blast.
Sunnyvale.
Yeah, Sunnyvale.
And I will be doing a show at Brainwash. I hosted it. It's called Florentina and Alexandria's High School Reunion at the Brainwash on March 22nd. So come enjoy comedy and do laundry.
Sweet. And are you guys big science geeks? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, tentative, yes.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
Florentina, you're an X-ray tech, aren't you?
yeah, I am.
So you are a geek.
I am a nerd. I want to play cool, guys.
All right.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, well, hopefully you'll be more of a geek after the show.
Yeah.
All right.
Should be a blast.
Awesome.
All right. And our guest scientist for the evening. Can I get a drum roll, please? It is...
It is...
No, too far. It is Jacob Ward.
Thank you.
This is you in a wind tunnel, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a story we were doing about motion sickness. I had a guy come to my garage. and his assistant, the photographer's assistant, blasted me in the face with a lawn blower to emulate high G
Really?
forces. Yeah.
I thought it was like an article you wrote like on the science of glory holes or something.
Yeah, I'm very happy you clarified how he blasted you in the face.
And if you guys don't
The article
know,
came quickly.
if you guys don't know about Jake Ward, he has a lot of experience on television and in writing. A science and technology correspondent for Al Jazeera PBS, editor-in-chief of Popular Science magazine, which is a really fun story how that actually happened. And he writes for The New Yorker, Wired, Men's Health, and his upcoming 10-episode podcast is called Complicated, about humanity's most difficult decisions. And so he's going to touch base on this a little bit. But
It's really funny, too. Let me tell you. It's a blast.
So yeah, and see things like healthcare, for example. It's not just black or white. It's not just one way or the other. There's thousands of variables that go into making decisions like this. So he's got a book that he's writing about bias, and that's going to be published in 2018. And he's got a 4-hour TV series, Hacking Your Mind, coming out as well.
Nice.
And there will, hacking the mind.
I didn't know that they let the Men's Health models also write the article.
Thanks, Martina.
Smooth.
Set that emotion early.
Yeah, guys. We were all thinking it, right? Okay.
Yeah, those abs. You should be stripping, not me. I'm like a miniature version of you. I come out at the end.
I know, with the blazer, it's
Yeah,
nice. I
yeah.
know, we have a thing going on.
We have a thing
It's
going
trying to
on.
copy, like copy.
Yeah.
You're like a mini-me version
Of
of
it,
Jacob.
It's
Yeah.
a scale, it's just a scale, and if you step in the foreground and the background, we'll do the same way.
We'll get that photo
That's
later.
good, that's good.
Excellent.
So our format, Jake will be asking you guys questions about his research, and you guys will have the opportunity to answer to earn fun prizes related to the themes. And so I like to call Jake a polymath, a science communicator. He knows a lot about a lot of different things, and he's taught other people and simplified them down to very digestible versions. So we're really looking forward to you guys engaging, and let's go ahead and start the puppy up.
All right, thank you.
Do it. Eureka.
Eureka.
All right.
So yeah, this is my first question here. What manned fighter jet will the Air Force build next? Anybody know? Can you name the maker?
This depends if we still have the Air Force if Trump doesn't like that.
It's not Boeing anymore, right?
It's
Anybody? Anybody got an idea?
Should we? Yeah.
I thought it was drone.
I thought it was drones from now on. No more manned aircraft.
Give that man a t-shirt.
He's
Eureka! Wow! Let's give a round of applause for our first
Hey, look at this guy.
Trump's America! You get a free drone from China.
that's amazing.
Nice.
Because you answered a plain question.
Was it 5?
Now, if you throw it, it's
Fuck it
done.
up around my ears.
Now you can terrorize people in other countries.
That may be our first one-for-one on
Yeah, he
that.
nailed it.
That was dead on.
That was like a whole
Wow.
lot.
That was really good.
Reasons I don't read it all.
It's very good.
You just got a position on Trump's campaign.
You probably did.
Yeah, good job.
You know more about the Air Force now than Trump does.
But there isn't one.
So,
This is the truth of the matter, is that the Secretary of the Air Force a year ago said that the Joint Strike Fighter, the J-35, would be the last manned fighter ever, that the United States will ever probably use or build. So,
Yeah,
Wow.
now it's gonna be
That's
the
it.
woman finder.
yeah, it's all women. It's all women from now on. That's right. That's right. So I actually got to stand next to one of the contenders for the next round of Joint Strike Fighters, or of American fighter jets. And in fact, that shot of my face being blasted was for a story that was about human limitations and motion sickness is only like the #1 limiting factor on fighter pilots. So when I got to go to a centrifuge.
they're traveling at what, like 2,000 miles an hour?
Well, so the difficulty, right, is that it's not G-forces in this direction, it's G-forces in this direction that fuck you up,
I'm
basically.
not flying
Oh, so they're
anymore.
just trying to
So-
hold you
Not
down.
flying
Yeah,
anymore
you
down
know,
there.
so
Sounds
you got
dangerous.
G-force on.
Yeah.
So yeah, so your Y, is it Y or X? I can't remember which one it is. But anyway, I got into this centrifuge that simulates, where they can simulate fighter pilots and various things, and they black you out. They intentionally do it, and they blacked me out. And
How many tequila shots?
Yeah, it doesn't take many. I washed out very early. I'm a total pansy about it. But I was asking them, about sort of human limitations. One of the things they said is that every year they do a war game where they put together Xbox style every allied air force with the United States in these centrifuges and do this simulated war game where you fly against each other. And so I said, well, that's really interesting. Who are the best fighter pilots? Who wins? Which country's air force wins? And they were like, the fucking Bahrainis. The Bahrainis every year. And I was like, why the Bahrainis? And they were like, oh, well, because they're shortest.
Yeah!
They're shortest.
I thought you were gonna say like no gag reflexes.
Yeah, it's because the distance between your heart and your brain, the hydrostatic loop, when you disconnect that is when you black out in a fighter jet. And so the Bahrainis have the shortest loop. And this is why, Air Force cadets are trained to be really
I'm glad he told me that, because I'm going to put that on my Tinder profile.
Yeah, I don't black out.
I don't black out easily. I'm built for G-forces, ladies. Great.
Yeah,
They were on G-forces.
Yeah, they're on G-force. Nice.
But that's the
nice.
only reason that they win. It's not because they're better flyers or anything else. It's just because they don't pass out. And so this is what's going to kick everybody's ass in the future. This is the X-47B, and I think if you click one more time, you'll see the footage of it. So this is it taking off from an aircraft carrier totally by itself. So there's nobody in that, right? That's just a big wind intake, air intake in the front. And Northrop Grumman, which made this, did this demonstration where it takes off with an aircraft carrier by itself, and then the really amazing thing is it lands by itself, right? On a moving aircraft carrier. It's a very, very hard thing to do. And they were very, very proud of this. So the idea is that then you can have one person in a plane. They say, although I don't think that'll be true. I think it'll be one person in a bunker somewhere, call in 50 of these things, and they can do whatever you want. You should fill them with bullets. It doesn't matter. You can pull a G-turn on even a Bahraini, and it brings up the whole sort of ethical question of robot murder, and there's all this stuff that we went hard at Al Jazeera about this. So, oh wow, that's an interesting idea. You're even darker than I am. I like that. My man.
There was actually a British pilot in World War II that was a double amputee, and he was one of the best Spitfire pilots because he didn't have the blood loss to his legs.
Wow.
Oh.
Wow.
Or just like no wars at all.
So,
That's a good idea.
how did you get those amputees? Those legs from the previous fighter? Yeah.
What a concept.
I'm just glad I know that the best way to beat a Bahrainian is a dude with no horns or legs.
Okay.
It's like a weird Pokemon card that is never really card.
Now I'm just imagining them breakdancing. I don't know.
Can't be black though.
Yeah.
What's that?
Can't be black
Okay.
because of his big dick.
Got it. We went there immediately.
Yeah.
All right, welcome to the show, guys.
There'll be a drone coming for you shortly.
Now that's what I call a G-force. Hey! Alright.
So let's have a quick follow-up before we move on, and even before I keep going. Does it sound like our audio is being distorted?
Yeah.
Because we're robots.
We're like a rap.
A little louder. Maybe we can turn it down.
Yeah. Cool. All right. This is much better, right?
Okay.
Check. Jake, can you speak?
Yes, hello. Hi.
I think that's much better, yeah? Yeah. All right, very good.
That's
All
very
right.
similar to me. Thank you.
Absolutely, because if we would have kept going, that would have been so annoying for the whole show. All right.
Yeah, can you turn up
Can you
the-
raise my glass ceiling a little bit?
And so let's jump back to this question. So from some of our previous scientists we've had on the show, we're talking a lot about robotics. We're talking a lot about the future of what, for example, drones are going to be like. So right now there's technology available for drones to fly through fields and use computer vision to see things as nuanced as weeds in fields, and then use spray to be able to eliminate those. So I want to know, what are the ethics behind using robots, especially in drones, to do things like drone strikes, and what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I mean, it's an incredibly interesting area of inquiry right now. A lot of people think about it. So Human Rights Watch has been trying to get the UN to truly put some kind of guideline down that everybody can agree to about the ethics of using robots to make the decision to kill. Right? And the sort of the idea has been up until now, this idea of the human in the loop. You're going to have a human being somewhere along the line making the decision to pull the trigger, or at least ratifying the decision to pull the trigger. But the people who actually know stuff about this say, well, that's A, stupid, and B, outdated, and that already we only have military systems that pull the trigger for us. So a lot of anti-aircraft systems right now, when a plane is coming in, the system just automatically locks in and begins to fire, because you wouldn't have time to wake up a human being to do something about it if a rocket is coming in. There's a system in Israel called the Iron Dome system that automatically intercepts these Kalusha rockets that come in from Hamas and other folks, and you have between 60 and 90 seconds to intercept that rocket. You could not wake someone up and have them take a beat on that rocket and do it. And then when you get into cyber warfare, right, where things are happening in milliseconds, you could not possibly have a human in the loop making a decision about whether to strike back or whether to do this, that, or the other. And so people have said sort of the ship has already sailed on whether or not human beings are going to be involved in lethal decision making. Then on top of that, the other sort of scary thing, there's a very fascinating guy at Berkeley named Stuart Russell who's done a lot of work on this, and he was trying to explain to me the math, and I'm sure many of you in this room are in the business of disrupting a business model or two, right? So the business model of building a bomber system or a combat aircraft system, it's like $2.2 billion to build a stealth bomber. Isn't this funny? This is going to be so funny all this time.
What if? But wait, if we're eventually going to be replaced by robots, that's no longer an ethical issue. It's robots killing robots.
Well, except that what they say is right. It's $2.2 billion to build the stealth bomber, and it requires 2 pilots and so forth. He's done the math on it and says that a 10,000 unit tiny coordinated drone carrying little shape charges thing could be run by 5 people and be $500,000, right? But that's like, and at that point,
or just rock, paper, scissors, right?
Yeah, rock, paper, scissors would be a better solution. And as a result, there's nobody conveniently sitting across from you at a UN-sanctioned meeting who represents a country saying, "Oh, we'll never do that." Yeah, because they're sleeping.
Everyone's sleeping.
I think we should just send all the soldiers who've had all their arms and legs blown off and get them to be the drone pilots.
People with a stake in it.
Going back their legs.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
How do you
This is
drive it?
dark.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys just want cyborgs today.
Yeah.
This is just turned into a cyborg.
Well, let's take a little quick audience poll. Okay, who's happy about robots and who's kind of like, let's get a woo for happy.
I'm pretty happy.
Okay, and then who's kind of like, oh, that was like,
Wait, just one sec. Alexa, count the number of. I love my Alexa.
come on.
Smooth jazz, Spotify.
Sorry.
Are we talking about Schwarzenegger or like?
Yeah, that's my question. What kind of a robot are we talking
It's
about?
okay,
Yeah, that's a good question.
Schwarzenegger.
Are you talking
So-
about a rabbit or
So
like,
let's give this as an
Rabbits are great
example.
as well.
So for example, we already have robots inside of our households that do chores for us, like a Roomba. Okay?
Yeah.
So like a Roomba, for example, we really don't believe that has consciousness, right? Okay.
What is that?
But let's say we build a robot that how do we determine whether it has consciousness or not? And then if we make that robot into our slave, then how do we feel about that? What are the ethics?
So let's go to question 2. What's that?
I would argue.
Westworld.
that the distinction is-
It becomes a sci-fi series on HBO, right?
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
I would argue the place that the robot thing gets, the question of whether it's a robot gets really complicated and really interesting is, do you have to pre-program ethics into the object? So even a self-driving car, which you would say, oh, there's no sort of ethical thing there. Sure there is, right? If the car is faced with a choice of, do you hit the kid or go off the road or kill the driver, you need somebody.
too many questions.
So when that happens, right, that company has to pre-decide that, the ethics have to go into it. For me, that is the territory past which we need new thinking about.
Well, luckily no one disagrees on about
Yeah,
it.
sure. Let's come back in.
I'm just going to expand on this sort of question. If we build something to pass, intentionally to pass the Turing test, at which point do we decide whether or not it's no longer simply passing it, it's actually conscious?
Yeah, that one I don't know. So the Turing test, if everybody doesn't know, right, if a robot can fool you into thinking it's human, if you don't know whether it's human and it can fool you, that's the...
You find them on
Turing
dating
test.
apps? Oh, she's so hot and she's into me.
Press 1 if you'd like to. That's right. But yeah, for me, I just think it's the point past which we're going to ask robots to make decisions that humans normally make. And I think at that point we're going to realize that we have no idea why we make the decisions we make as humans, and thinking that roboticizing that decision making is going to simplify things is totally incorrect in my view. So we'll get more to that later in the show, but this idea of how humans make decisions, tough.
I like how we're going to be in a future one day where we're going to have to come up to a robot and be like, yo, how woke are you right now?
How woke was your maker?
How woke was your
How
maker?
woke was your maker?
Yeah, there you go.
All robots matter.
But it's not your maker, because once you got AI, then it goes down its own decision tree.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Beyond,
Yes.
Except for the
How woke are you, Mr. Robot?
This is a very woke audience. All right.
They're
All right.
all robots.
Yeah.
We all did not see that Johnny Depp movie that you're referencing right
I was gonna say The Matrix. Am I not woke?
All right.
I'm partially woke.
All right. So that was a solid first question.
Yeah, good night, everybody. Good night, that was great.
Yeah. And we've only had one answer so far.
We want the future.
All right.
What we learned about humans is we are woke, but we like our naps.
Yes. All right. Question number dos.
Question number 2, at what number is the Earth's human population predicted to peak? What will be the most number of people that demographers believe are going to live on this planet?
San Francisco Democrats.
Shout it out, if you really know it.
Wait.
9 billion.
Comedians, do you have any thoughts?
Oh, what number is the Earth human population predicted to peak? I don't have a number, but I want to say we need to lose 20% of the people who drive on the 101. That's all I'm
So
It's
it
ridiculous.
peaks around rush hour.
Yeah. Whatever peak rush hour, it's already peaked. Already peaked. We need to destroy 20%.
We need the peak to be a little less so that my rent can go down. You know what I mean? Like,
That's right. The Earth's human population rent predicted to peak.
Yeah.
That's a
I'm going to throw out a random number, 2.75 billion people.
we're at
Okay, so less than we have
Yes,
now.
yes. I am being very consistent here if you don't understand what I'm saying.
I'd like to take a guess.
100?
7 billion, because obviously the world's gonna end like yesterday.
We're kind of there.
So
I know, that's.
Oh, I see. It already
You
ended.
get it?
Right.
You get it?
I see people who have the this guy's got a casual kind of hand up like he really knows. I think somebody knows this one.
All right. So but really quickly before we take questions from answers from you guys, we just had a show with June Yoon about population
Yes, we did.
stabilization.
Oh, wow.
Yes, we did. And some of you guys may know. And in that show, we had a whole long conversation about a lot of these things. So the number is projected somewhere, but it could vary.
Yeah, could be. This is based on what
I would
was
say I
talking here.
still don't
saw
know.
It's based on what you do tonight, people. Make those babies.
All right, we have an answer.
Yeah.
9 billion.
Google Calendar.
Our answer was 9 billion.
9 billion. No?
Is it
More than
Not
that?
9 billion.
120 billion.
120 billion?
120
This is
billion?
Are you trying to kill all our resources, sir?
11 billion.
Genghis Khan fertility up there.
We had a follow-up answer.
11 billion.
11. Eureka!
It starts with you, Daddy.
Nice.
Oh,
Nice.
looks just like you two.
Yeah, I know.
Here it is. Little hot. You're now a father.
Used to be mine, you're both now.
Do you have any
That's the
kids?
last Christianity is the number one religion in the world. Most people are Christian, but Muslims are very quickly going to overtake them because they have more children than anybody else. Muslim families. Say it again. Well, so most people currently are Chinese. That's right. But in terms of this is just like another tangent. But
They have that one rule, you know,
Right. No, both China
wait.
and India.
I don't know if you know this, but maybe Chinese people could be Muslim people.
So here's speaking of China.
Zero woke.
Speaking of China, here's Shenzhen, China, right? And this illustrates the difficulty, right? Is that on the right hand side you can see the metropolis, right? And on the left hand side are the farms, right? They're right up against one another. And this is how it's going to work. That basically, you know, people are going to be jam packed on top of one another, but you're going to have to protect a certain amount of arable land, and it's going to be right up against where we live. And currently, the United States isn't even really zoned for that. We don't really build things out that way. So, but you know, this is evidently the vision of the future. Every available plot of arable land being farmed, every available livable land.
Have you been to Gilroy? It kind of looks like this.
Hold on. So hold on a second. We'll engage with the audience more because we are only on question 2, and we want to keep going through a few things.
Sure.
And I want to touch on some points here. So within this whole topic of what the future is going to look like with people living in megacities. As you said, the arable land is going to be right by the cities, let's say, but there's a lot of other factors that go into megacities. There's the amount of trash that we have inside of these gigantic monolithic condos and things.
Yeah.
Then we also have the amount of density, population density, so how do we educate the kids, how do we provide them with health care? So I just want to hear some of your thoughts about, as people, what is the statistic on the amount of people that live in megacities you think?
Yeah, so megacities, this is sort of a transition to this topic of megacities. The term megacity, demographers use to describe any contiguous city of more than 10 million people. And once upon a time, London was the only city in the world that had over 1 million, and now it doesn't even make the list of the top 10 most populous cities in the world. So right now, Tokyo, Yokohama is the #1 in the world, but you know, the cities that are going to take over are totally different than that. In fact, I think I just gave away question 3. I'm not sure.
I think you did, yeah.
Sorry about that.
But it's
Sorry about
okay.
that.
There's still other answers for it. But now talk a little bit more about how we sustainably, live in these mega cities.
Well, so you know
You can answer that call too. If you want.
exactly. Feel free to pick up and ask them how
You
they
can phone a friend.
sustainably live.
Yeah.
So you know there's huge challenges obviously to so much of this. I mean, when I lived in New York for many years, and I'm sure many of you did as well, and like New York City is like one of these places where you can just get the sense that like it is just barely hanging on, just white knuckling it infrastructure-wise, right? And the 101, and you know, all these places where you're just like, wow, we really can't do even another lane of travel. So what the hell are we going? You know, how are we going to do this? But when you get into other countries and you realize the total lack of centralized infrastructure, you know, I really don't know how that problem gets solved. But you also see in these amazing sort of decentralized cities, cities in Africa, where there will be like these makeshift biodigesters, where like the methane from the outdoor commode is the cooking gas used in the restaurant across the alley. You know, there's this amazing sort of centralized, sort of decentralized stuff that's going on there. So
wait, did you just say people cook with farts?
Yeah, yes, totally right. You know, this incredible feedback.
You're a science communicator, aren't you?
So,
my girlfriend.
To me though, I don't know, and they also, so much of what people say about how, how sort of income inequality predicts crime and predicts all kinds of difficulties in cities, that stuff is going to get vastly worse in megacities. That's one of the things that people talk about, that 7 in 10 of us are going to live in one of these cities, supposedly. And
by what year?
2050. By 2050, 7 in 10 of us.
So San Francisco's considered one.
San Francisco is not yet over 10 million.
We'll probably build a wall around this
Not even
city.
over 1 million. Not even over 1 million.
Not in my back city.
Let's go to question 3, and I'll tell you about the big
Cool.
cities.
Yeah,
So-
let's do it.
So 2050 is when we get RoboCop, because that's what it sounds like.
2050.
Drone
You think your
strikes and
commute's bad
RoboCop,
now.
population
Yeah,
control.
you think getting from one place to another is bad now. So I gave one of these away already.
All right,
See if
so
you can name-
Tokyo, Yokohama doesn't count.
Tokyo, Yokohama doesn't count.
Two
See if you
more
can name one of
cities.
these other
Wait.
top 3 most populous cities.
Raise your hand, children.
New Delhi.
New Delhi. India is
Eureka!
That's one.
Eureka.
Eureka.
Let's give a round of applause.
All right.
Yeah.
Give you.
That is a weak round of applause. Let's hear a louder
A
one.
praise. There you are.
Nice, a squish brain.
Squishy brain.
What's amazing is Delhi is number 3. How about number number 2?
Okay, New
Number
Delhi's
two.
number 3.
Who's number 2? Tokyo, Yokohama, then
Okay, I
what's
want to
number
give a
2?
few answers up here.
Ciudad de Mexico.
Mexico.
Ciudad de Mexico is on the list of the top end, is not on the top 3.
Not top 3.
Top 3 is a
Buenos
top.
Aires.
I like everyone's like answering with an accent. Make sure when you list the city, you give it the native accent.
I'll give you a hint. It's in the Pacific Rim. It's not in our part of the world.
Okay, good answer.
That's where the monsters are.
Yeah. It's where Godzilla is.
Shanghai, China.
Nope, good guess, but nope, I'm afraid not.
Jakarta?
Yes,
Oh,
Wait. He just said Jakarta. He didn't say where Jakarta is in. Where is Jakarta in?
Indonesia.
I wanted him to answer. The rest of you guys answer.
You have the accent? All right, one way to control population is your own little Godzilla.
Ah, nice.
Check it out.
Very nice.
I don't think Godzilla's ever been to Jakarta, though.
What's that?
I don't think he's ever been to Jakarta.
No, he is not.
No.
Jakarta would be on the list.
Should be on the list for a monster.
I don't think Godzilla goes south. He just kind of hangs out.
He kind of hangs out
and fights Mothra in Japan.
Does he
Yeah,
swim?
okay.
I don't
It's very localized damage.
So what's crazy is, let's look at the list of cities. So right, number 1, Tokyo, Yokohama, 37.8 million people. Jakarta is 31 million. I mean, you guys, we're not even in a city that has 1 million people here. You know, I mean,
But we are in the Bay Area, which has 10.
the Bay Area as a whole. That's right. But they, and a lot of them are driving between and around somewhere
Wait,
here.
if we counted the number of pets like in San Francisco, we're at least up to like 40 million.
That's right. That's right. Density. That's
Come
right.
on.
The pets are having their own
They're
part of
human
time
too.
talking about it. That's right.
If we count how many people live in a living room, does that
That's right. That's
our
right.
chances at all?
As an Indian person, all I hear is my mom's voice right now. Like, you need to have more children so we can be number 1.
So what's crazy is that there are at least 5 cities that are going to be bigger than these by 2050.
What are those?
So those include, let's click to the next slide and I'll show you the picture of one of them, right? Lagos, Nigeria. Right? Lagos, Nigeria is going to be one of those. Karachi, Pakistan, which currently is on track to be certainly the most dense city in the world, like least amount of space per person, just an incredible number of people. And Shenzhen, which I showed you a picture of earlier. All of those are expected to be bigger than these.
Look at all those.
Lagos is supposed to be bigger population-wise than the entire country of South Korea.
And that's 50 million right now.
Yeah, so the cities are going to be over 50 million people in
Yeah.
your lifetime.
I think these guys will be fine though. I don't know if you guys know. I got like an email from a prince from out here, and he's got a bunch of money. So I feel like their population space thing could be solved.
A quick, just before I want to touch on something about Lagos, Nigeria. Is there more feedback?
It's really loud.
Oh, is it loud?
Can we turn it down just a little bit more, please?
Your
Testing,
voice
1,
is
2, 1, 2,
beautiful.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Testing.
Maybe take some sort of hormone supplement.
I think it's a little better. Is it? I think it's better.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. So let's not talk too loud in the mics. We apologize about the sound difficulties. So
We're just trying to recreate the feeling it would be if you're in this city.
Yeah, correct. It's gonna be that loud. So from our previous show with Junior, we talked a lot about population stabilization and what that means. And so there, you mentioned Lagos, Nigeria, and the population increasing in that city. So Africa is projected to increase from 1 billion to 4 billion in 50 years versus the rest of the world stays, population stabilizes in more developed countries because Africa is developing. So I'd like to maybe ask you a question about what you believe the future looks like when we have Africa increasing population by so drastically much, catching up as a developed continent versus the rest of continents that have kind of already developed.
Oh man! So I work for Al Jazeera a great deal of the time, and my contact with them is so fascinating because those people are such better and more experienced journalists than I am. And they're from all over the world and could tell you so much about the continent of Africa and everything about it, not least how to pronounce Lagos, right?
Do you have their number?
So for me, yeah, I can just imagine, I was literally on the phone with them like 2 hours ago, and if I tell them tomorrow that I was asked to explain like how will Africa become a self-sustaining place in 50 years, they would just slap me out of the room. So let me just tell you right now, I know jack shit about it as compared to the people who really know about it. But
don't sell yourself.
but no, I got it because it's just one of those things where
You got the mic, bro.
yeah, I know. But fake news is born by people like me. Who are like, oh, no, I got some thoughts about
I
it.
think sex has a
But,
little bit to do with
but my feeling, my feeling about it is,
People not admitting, people not being humble and just shouting off things.
all right, I got the mic and I got 140 characters
Yeah.
to tell you about it.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Captive audience.
one of the things that like, I think that the theme of life is we keep thinking that democracy is the base, is the fundamental, is the natural state of humankind. And it is such an experiment and so hard to keep going. And we screwed up, so
It's
many
complicated.
colonial territories. It's very complicated, and so many colonial territories were so hamstrung by so many problems for so long that we are just now beginning to see what might be possible in Africa.
When do you think America will get democracy?
Yeah, that'd be good too. But so for me, I just think that it is so early to tell. And all I know is, because I try to mostly trade in only the quantifiable stuff, because I find that the analytical stuff like I'm doing right now, it just gets me into trouble and I can't really verify it. But one of the things that they say about what makes a megacity happen is a center of some sort of wealth directly contiguous to a group of people with no prospects at all, who flood that place. So you need a rural, desperate population pouring into Karachi, pouring into Shenzhen to work. That's right. And
So like a gold rush?
this podcast I'm doing is with a wide range of both demographers and biologists working on, plant biologists who are working on questions of how we're going to feed half the people and twice the people on half the land. And they certainly say that GMOs are a necessary thing to make that happen. There's a plant biologist at UC Davis who's been working for many, many years on not a drought-resistant rice crop, but a rice that can survive flooding. You can flood it, and it can sit in the water for a couple of weeks and still come back. And that stuff, would be a miracle in this part of the world. And so, that said, and even the most progressive agricultural economists will tell you that we cannot survive on farmers markets, that the life that you and I lead, where we go out down on a Saturday and get our greens for the week, does not work in the grand scheme of things. So I don't know.
So where do we get our kale?
Well, we can, but you just can't have it from that same dude.
He's my friend.
Are you telling me that Africans can't spend $20 on a bushel of apples at Whole Foods?
That's right. Get yelled at for asking for
Where
milk
can
with
you
their
get my
coffee.
free samples at? I'm just
Yeah, no free samples for you in Lagos. So, I know.
Well, at least they get free healthcare. Obviously, that's why it's so populated there.
So those guys, I would say, when I took with the anti-GMO crowd, which I think has a number of really interesting points, when they go hard at an agricultural economist, you get into some they just really miss one another completely. The agricultural economist says, well, good luck feeding the world. So.
But at the same
That's a
time,
tough one.
everything that's ever happened has been genetically modified.
Well, that's what the plant biologist would say too. That's right. That like a pluot, a plum and an apricot mashed together is the most. That's the most genetic tinkering ever. Smashing these things together. So why is suddenly tweaking one gene that much worse?
Pluot. You heard about pluot?
No.
It's something like I need to clean off my sheets.
No, it's not.
Pluot last night.
We are 50% genetically similar to bananas, some of us more than others. All right.
Oh.
There we go.
So now getting into the comedy part of the show.
All right.
All right.
Here's a funny one. Well,
So that was a topic of mega cities.
yeah, that was mega cities. Let's pivot now to what is the single most common cause of death by accidental injury in the United States? All right.
All right. Comedians maybe first. Comedians first.
Single most common cause of death. Well, when I go on stage and do my comedy routine, I kill.
Single most common cause of death by accidental injury. Yeah. So cars used to be number one, but it's not.
I want to say cleaning out a gun. I hope it's cleaning out a gun.
All right, let's take an audience answer.
I'm gonna say falling off a ladder.
Ooh, falling off ladders is good. Falls.
Okay.
No, I'm afraid not. It's up there. Raise your hand. Raise your hand.
Hold
Makes
on.
for a great fail video.
Too many pluots.
Too many clues.
Pluots.
Yeah, is it pluot choking?
Opiates.
Wait, one more time.
Yes.
Opiates.
Yes.
Opiates.
Nice.
Wow. Oh, wow. What do we have? Can you come on down now? That's all right. We have the true tale of America's opiate epidemic, Dreamland. Read it, learn about it. sift through this knowledge.
I hope you guys realized he just said opioid overdose and then everybody clapped.
I know.
That is the society that we live in.
Weird gig.
Yeah! Death by drugs! Smoke marijuana!
Before we move on, let's ask how did you come up with that answer? How did you know?
Smoke weed every day. I know it's not an opioid, leave me alone.
I'm a survivor.
Police officer, and I know
Yeah.
Oh.
police officer.
He's a law enforcement officer.
Let's give a round of applause for a
Helping stop opioids.
Yeah, so it's right. It used to be that traffic accidents was number one. Traffic accidents used to be the top cause of death by accidental injury, and it's been eclipsed by opioid overdose, right? So and the numbers are amazing because you would think, oh, it must be heroin, right? It's got to be 8,000 deaths a year of heroin. But that's not what's killing everybody.
So heroin's safe.
Twice that number. 16,000 a year dying of prescription opioid. And that's people taking it under a doctor's advice, maybe taking it under what used to be a doctor's advice, but are now different to something else, or having gotten it from somebody else. So yeah, opioid overdose killing more people.
You know, we'll get rid of that problem if we just got rid of all of our medical support. You know what I mean? If nobody had health care, nobody can die from
I wouldn't
opioids.
have a job then. What?
Oh man.
Is number 4 all of these combined? That would be kind of cool.
Right?
No, number
I can't
4
remember what
is
number 4 is.
Kevin. Number 4 is your set.
Falling off ladders.
Who died for that? Me on stage?
No, you were killing.
I'm killing.
On stage.
Just real quick, Jake, maybe before we move into the next question. So, a lot of, what are opiates? Why do people use opiates?
Sure.
Yeah, and is that typically, why are they prescribed in the first place? Why are not natural, holistic sorts of practice prescribed?
Yeah, so the opioid epidemic stems from a couple of things. So in the late 80s, early 90s, it became sort of, the medical community began to treat pain not as a side effect of a thing, but as a thing that needed to be treated. Pain became there became a war on pain. And so that then also dovetailed with then a radical change in welfare reform, various other things that made it such that the only affordable and reasonable option in treating pain, which you were required to do as a healthcare provider, sorry about that, was to give people opioids. There are studies that have been shown, thank you, that a vastly more effective way of treating pain, or at least a quantifiably more effective way of treating pain, is physical therapy. But there are not enough physical therapists in the country to treat everybody who would theoretically need somebody to do that. The system has become such that we can't do it. The Veterans Administration, which prescribes more opioids and more of basically any drug than anything else, than any other organization in the country, says that 50% of people coming to them are coming to them with chronic pain, complaining of chronic pain, which would then require opioids. And before
We
you
have
say
lots
to
of
yourself,
yoga in San Francisco for them to come here.
yoga, exactly. But they, have no other option. My sister-in-law is one of these people who came in and said, I have terrible back pain from my service, and was given opioids, and very quickly found herself saying, well, I don't think that this is going to work for me. These are working, but I don't like them, and she had to do something else. But the system is built to give people a tremendous number of opioids. Now, opioid overdose is just a really weird and freak sort of side effect of the chemical effects of opioids. Opioids are incredibly effective at treating pain, and this is an important thing to understand, is that a lot of people have a lot of pain in life right now, and that it's not that a certain kind of weak-willed person requires opioids. People are in crazy pain. People are getting into all kinds of painful situations. They
falling off ladders,
and serving in the military, and serving in law enforcement, all kinds of crazy things. So anyway, when they take the opioids and it binds to the brain, one of the things that it does, that it just happens to do, is it changes it drives down so when you breathe, the chemical urge to breathe is not the urge to get oxygen in. The drive is actually to get carbon dioxide out. And opioids change the way that your body reads an excess of carbon dioxide. It turns off its sensitivity to that. And as a result, kills off your drive to breathe, to expel the carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide then begins to knock you out. You fall into what's called CO2 narcosis, and that's where you OD.
So you're saying opioids take the battery out of my body smoke detector?
Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Poet.
Dude, that's very good. That's exactly
I can be smart. I can be smart.
That's exactly what it is. And so you just you conk out, and there's no knowing about it, and you go very gently, and you're done. That's
So do opiates with a friend, people.
that is right. That is actually.
And physical therapy is better, right? That's a better way of treating the pain. We just don't have the infrastructure. So if we did, what if we were all treated, by physical therapy instead? Imagine 10 years later we're doing this show, and the number one cause of death is physical therapy. Keep bending off, dude.
All right, so let's move on to the next question. All right.
I knew it was oxy. I knew it was
Yeah,
oxy.
sorry about that. Not my Facebook.
No refills left. Oh.
All right.
So there's a complicated question. So there is a miracle drug called Narcan that can reverse the effects of an overdose. So I was describing about how your smoke detector is being turned off. Narcan goes in, knocks the drug off the brain, and turns your smoke alarm back on immediately. And you go from dying to awake and sober almost not instantaneously, but very, very quickly. So according to the CDC, and this is a question that I have great respect for you, sir, and it'll be relevant to your thing here. I mean you no offense in this. According to the CDC, what percentage of the life-saving reversals were made by firefighters and police officers that carry Narcan? This stuff is you can administer it either through the leg or spray it into the nose. This was
The fact you said no offense.
I'm giving it away a little bit.
I love it.
What percentage?
It's a very easy equation.
Or the period of study was, I believe, from 1999 or 2000 to 2013, 2014. But it was worked out to, on average yearly, out of a yearly number.
Well, it's very easy. There's a whole mathematical thing about it. It's like, what percentage of the week is the weekend, and then you got it all figured out.
That's true.
That's right.
2 days.
Anybody?
7.
Give a wild guess, what percentage?
Thursdays and Fridays, so.
That's true.
5%. How close is that?
5% is actually pretty close.
Close.
Is it 5 over 0?
7. Is it 11 billion?
It's lower.
Yeah, is it 11?
Somebody else? We're going to the decimal point here?
So sorry, no.
Wait, today is Pi Day.
It was 7. It was 7.
Oh, it's 7! Eureka! Now, round of applause, come on up. We weren't able to find any Narcan, but we did find some awesome snake oil, huh? You can use this for anything, seriously for anything. I drink it for alcohol, I use it for shampoo.
Her answer is very different than what we thought. Yeah, what did you think it was?
The weekend?
No, I thought you thought it was
Yeah, roughly 11
million.
This is why our population is going to increase. There's going to be a lot of idiots. Sorry.
So the percentage on, according to the CDC study, this was the first big field study of this. Yeah, emergency responders, 7%. 7% of reversals were performed by emergency responders. 11% by friends and family.
If you're on the
Wow.
Yeah.
Friends and family, right? But
It's nice to know that friends and family are 4% better. Or,
well,
4% less shitty.
Do drugs with a buddy.
so 83% of reversals were performed by the drug users themselves. When
Or
you
some
do
guy named
drugs with
Carol.
friends. That's right. So the thing about this is, no one does drugs with you present. It's illogical. Why would anyone be doing drugs in front of a police officer?
Because you like to party?
You just don't. Do that, right? And even giving it out to friends and family. And there are great training programs. San Francisco is one of the capital cities of doing great training programs for teaching people how to use Narcan. even friends and family who've been trained to it are very rarely in a position to administer a life-saving overdose to someone who's doing drugs. And so,
Because they're usually
the logic is you want to give it to the people doing the drugs because they will be present at the time, and you want to train them and one another.
Oh, that's some Inception level shit right there.
It's really
Could you do like kind of like a speedball of Narcan and opiates together?
Well,
Just like an amazing trip.
And so this is one of the things, right? Is that it raises for us, and I know there are going to be good questions like, in the audience. I won't go too long, but like it raises a lot of really thorny issues for people because I don't know about you, but I had, I think, a great deal of inborn prejudice about people addicted to heroin and addicted to prescription opioids, and I thought to myself, this is a category of people who can't control themselves and they've got an addictive personality and blah blah blah. You know, and then I started to meet people in that position. I started to discover people that really, like, you know, were exactly like me, except that they were addicted
Not
to
as
these
tall.
drugs. Well, maybe not as tall. Although one guy was as tall. He was really like looking into a
But
mirror.
no six-pack.
Yeah,
And so that thing of like the thing of saying you have to attach the threat of death to drug abuse, which is somehow the sort of underpinning of a lot of drug policy right now, is a really, it turns out, ineffective and sort of weird moralistic
Makes
system.
it cool, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, right, I mean,
People
the
feel
threat of
slow.
danger, but then, and then you would talk to people and say, I would talk to people and say, so, you know, when you go through this, you know, what's it like? And they say, you know, I asked one person, one of the training techniques that they give you about Narcan is, don't leave the person who has just been revived. And I said, why is that? And they said, because they get up and they're suddenly in the worst withdrawal, because it's been knocked off their brain and they're in horrible withdrawal, that they'll go and they'll cop again. And I was like, what? They've just come back from dying. And they're going to go get more of the drug? And the person sitting across from me, who had been a long-time drug user and now was sober, looked at me like a child. And was like, it's heroin, man. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, of course they're going to go do that. They're, you know. And
So the solution is to equip the treatment with the actual user itself, and then let them revive themselves.
This is the sort of cutting edge thinking in the sort of drug user advocacy community, is that you should be giving out Narcan to as many people as possible. And I'd be very interested to sort of hear your feeling about that after the show. Or maybe even right now. I bet everybody would be interested to hear a law enforcement officer's feelings on this. Tell me what you think about it.
I mean, you're a narc.
I'd really like to.
Yeah, he is a narc. I was thinking the same thing.
I just think that your question was a trick question, because you said, how many times does it work with police officers and firefighters? I was going to say 100% of the time. Because
Absolutely.
every time I've used it on somebody, it's worked.
It works, absolutely.
But then you just went back to, like, it was a trick question.
I'm sorry, and you're absolutely right.
So,
I mistyped it, but
science
that's right.
says
That's right. That's absolutely right.
100% of the time.
Yeah, I don't by any means mean to. I don't mean to in any way suggest that law enforcement officers
Can
don't
we
know
get
how to
invited
do it
to
or that it's not
these
effective.
So drug users do carry them, and it does work on them almost all the time.
May I just ask you how do you feel about it? Do you think it should be widely available to anybody?
I think drugs should be legalized,
Okay.
period.
Sure.
After the show, we're all doing drugs with you, so
Nice.
you're going to take care of us.
He is in the bathroom.
Thank you for your candor. I really appreciate that. I'm just fascinated. That's what people.
I want to call dibs on driving the cop car first.
I really recommend, and then other people I know have thoughts on this. I really recommend. There's a mural street in the Mission. What's that famous street?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a Narcan one on there that perfectly encapsulates the patients.
And if you take a left turn from there, they're great burritos.
Which you'll need after you had your narc.
All right, so we've covered robots, we've covered mega cities, we've covered opioids.
Everyone have an opioid buddy? Got mine right
Yeah.
here.
Blue
On
off.
a friend.
What is next? What is next? Science communicator.
So this is the subject.
Oh.
Eminem.
Sorry. This
Yeah,
is
his mixtape just dropped.
I know it.
All right,
I don't know.
on we go.
So this is the subject that's nearest and dearest to my heart right now. This is the subject I'm sort of doing a lot about. So when should you buy trip insurance? You know, like when you're checking out of Expedia or Hitbook or one of these, like when should you like under what kind of trip? Is there any kind of trip you should?
How about an acid trip?
It has to
For
trigger.
that.
All right, we have a very passionate answer.
Yes. She's absolutely right. Never.
Got it. Never. That's 2 in a row. Come on up.
Why?
Let's do it by all this.
5 times.
Yeah.
We got you an instant nerd kit. Not that you need it, because you radiate nerd. In case you really want to show the world. All right, you got it.
So, I've been spending a lot of time with economists lately talking about human irrationality and why we make certain decisions about sort of under conditions of uncertainty. And the number one thing they say is, so they love to tell the story of Homer Simpson and The Simpsons. There's an episode where he gets found, they find that he has a crayon in his brain, and that's why he's been the way he has, right? They take it out, and he's suddenly incredibly smart and incredibly irritating, and nobody wants to be around him. So he goes to Mo, and he says, please, put the crayon back into my brain. The doctors won't do it, I need you to do it. And Mo scrubs in, you know, and begins to whack his crayon back into his nose. And he says, just keep going. And he whacks it further, and he says something about the swimsuit issue, you know, and then he whacks a little further, and he goes, defense, defense. And Mo's like, that's almost it, hang on a little further. And he whacks it in all the way, and then he goes, extended warranties, how can you lose? So that is what economists say perfectly encapsulates the truth about extended warranties. Everly, the rule is, you should insure the big stuff, your house, your life. But anything smaller than your house, don't worry about it. It's stupid. Don't do it.
No car
Throw
insurance,
money away.
guys. Lame.
Cars in there,
So
right?
if you have a Chihuahua, do not insure it at all.
Yeah, no.
Don't pay
Depends on how you
taxes.
feel about the Chihuahua. Yeah.
Come on, a little piece of paper, don't pay your taxes.
Like a good neighbor, Jake Ward is there.
Yeah.
So just a quick follow-up to this is, what about if you're booking something that you may be gone? You're booking something, but there may be a meeting, or your grandma may be sick and she may be not feeling well there. So there are maybe some.
I'm sure there are edge cases. I'm sure there are edge cases about it, but by and large, they say it just makes no sense. Especially because oftentimes, if you look closely, you'll see that you're actually buying a refundable, changeable fare, and that the cost of changing it, you know, will work out better for you in the fine print than cashing in on the insurance where you have to show a doctor's note and they can reject you on other things. You know, they just say that, like, generally speaking, because that's the thing, is that these days the airlines are even built, the system is built, so you can't even check out unless you openly refuse a travel insurance, which then says that it's recommended. And then you look closely and you realize, hey, this is a totally changeable and refundable fare. What the f*** are you trying to sell me this for? You know?
But I thought the insurance was also for, like, if you, like.
Yeah, when you say travel insurance, what exactly do you mean? Are you talking about like
They've
just
never
that
traveled. Do you mind
extra?
explaining?
Yeah,
I guess what I'm asking is like if you go on a safari in Africa and they're like, do you want health insurance?
No,
You'd be like,
that
I was
that's
told
what-
this is a bad idea.
Yeah. I'm going somewhere next week. It's dangerous, and I have insurance that covers me now.
See.
But
Where you
I'm
going?
going
You mean like the fare and the
But I mean the
travel
fare,
and- I see,
refundable fare.
Oh.
I thought it was like an all or nothing thing.
No,
I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Insure your life, yes.
Thanks
Your
for
house,
inviting us,
yes.
by the way.
but that's- so.
All right, so to continue on to,
Yeah.
well, what is this topic? What is this called?
So this is it's both a book I'm writing and a 4-hour show we're doing for PBS on human irrationality and bias. Bias is a word that scientists use to describe not just prejudice and discriminatory thinking, but all cognitive illusions, the mistakes that we as humans have developed through evolution for millions of years, the decisions that we make. So
This is going to be really good.
I think so too. I'm excited about it.
And the goal of this is actually, it's just basically to save some money on airfare.
Oh yeah.
That's amazing.
If I save you some
That's
bucks
where
on
it's coming
airfare,
to, guys.
that'll be enough.
Nice.
That is
If we
great.
can save democracy, that'll also be good.
Okay, let's focus on the big stuff though.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
So, there are 5 kinds of probabilities that humans can pretty much unconsciously do in their head that we can handle. There's only 5.
Can I make it to the bathroom?
Yeah, that's what we'll make the show.
Does she
Up to
like me?
101.
Probably not.
Probably not. How much tip do you leave after dinner?
20% does not count. That's right. Anybody want to take a stab at this one?
5 probabilities. Can you list all
You know
5?
this is the toughest of the show.
I got
Let's go.
one. Will I make this jump?
That's right. So these are numerical probabilities.
How much can I drink and drive?
That's good. That's right. Drinking and driving.
You know there's a cop
Percentages.
sitting right there, right?
Percentages.
I'm going to die.
Yeah, I'm going to die as one. So these
Okay.
these are percentages. These are percentages. These are numerical percentages. And if we don't get one in a second, I'll give you an example, and that'll narrow it down. Go ahead, sir.
Timing. How long is it going to take me to drive there?
Timing. These are good. So these are numerical probabilities. Let me give you two
Everybody has been
examples.
wrong so far.
That's right. That's right.
There's a 100% chance you're not going to get it right.
That's right.
We
So
have another answer.
I'll give you. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, man.
Will I get a date with this person?
Right. These are okay. So I've misread the question. Let me give you the example.
I have clearly derailed everyone.
Yeah, that's all right. So let me give you I'll give you two of them and see if you can, or sorry, I'll give you four of them and see if you can do the last one. Okay.
Wait. Let's see if we can get a numerical one. Remember,
She had us.
Yeah,
A coin flip
numbers.
is 50%.
Percentages, 1 out of 100.
Say it again.
Percentages, 1 out of 100.
That's right. So that's the category. So let me give you an example.
Oh, wait.
Hang on.
One out of 100.
So.
What?
99
Alright, hold on.
You gotta wait for the dude with the mic.
50-50 is good. That's one of them.
Okay, so let's give it Eureka.
I think that's right. I think you're get this guy's woman Eureka.
Okay, all right. There we go. Let's get a nice Eureka t-shirt. There you are. And you can change it from the side if you need to. There you are. Very nice. 100% probability Eureka.
So let me rip. Shall I rip through the rest, or should we do more?
Let's take another answer. How about we've done 0%?
So we've done 0 versus 100%
and
50-50. What's the last one?
All right, hold on.
99.
What's that?
99.
99.
You got it. Eureka.
Eureka,
Very
99
good.
baby bottles on the wall. Pass them around. Well, 99 bottles. There you are.
So yeah, so.
It has a cat on it, doesn't it? It's a kitty.
Oh, my bad. Look at me, I grabbed this and I got us in trouble. So these are them. Is
Wow.
0%, 100%, 1%, 99%, and 50-50. This is what scientists have discovered we are actually capable of doing in our brains. When you go 70-30, when they say 70-30 chance, you don't know what that means in your brain. I don't, and you don't. We just can't do that. We can do, it's impossible. Yeah, you said 0 versus 100.
I said 1 out of 100.
She did say 1 out of 100. So let's
Okay,
give
that's
it Eureka. That's true.
That's true.
Because I told my date that once, like, what's
I know it seems like we've all done this before, but
You
I
did say 1%. Great answer. Great answer.
Good job.
That makes sense to me that we can't tell the difference in percentages because I've drank every single type of those milk and they taste exactly the fucking same.
Skim milk, we can do 2%, but we can't.
I don't know what 0% milk tastes like.
percent.
Skim milk.
Probably Ovaltine. That's
So
what I think.
here's the really interesting thing about this is that what these guys would say, what the big economists would say is what's really interesting is that we like I said, we can do 0%, 100% no problem. 1%, 99% we can sort of imagine, but we will do anything to move from 99% probability to 100% probability. We hate uncertainty as human beings. We cannot handle it, which is why we buy stupid fucking insurance on our plane tickets that are otherwise refundable. We think to ourselves, whoa, something could go wrong. Even though the economists will tell you it's a 99% 99.9999% probability that it's going to go fine, and you go, oh no,
Yeah, just like that
I've
election
got to insure
we had.
myself against pain in this world.
We should have listened to Jay-Z.
Yeah.
We get 99% of this problem.
But that 1% was not travel insurance.
Was not travel insurance.
All right, that was another good point on irrationality and cognition. We'll see. I have no idea. 70-30 apparently can't do that.
Yeah, can't do that.
All right.
Can't really do that.
Nice.
So,
Moving on.
so what is the most imitative species of animal on the planet?
Parrots. Please answer in pantomime.
Parrots?
Anybody who hasn't won yet?
Wait, actually, you were right. If I want to jump across something and I knew 99%, I would do anything to make it 100.
Exactly. I'm not jumping that.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right.
Let's take it.
Wait, what's the question? What is the most imitative?
Humans. Human beings. That's
Yeah. We'll get you. We're gonna get. You want to get him a T-shirt? We have to get him to the table. Oh yeah, get him a T-shirt.
That is so true. You know, Ariana Grande actually Mariah Carey.
Oh.
So that, yeah, this is the thing. Human beings, the most imitative species on the planet. One of the studies that they do for this. Nice work, Eddie.
Yeah.
By the way, the front row is killing it. I don't know. You guys,
What was your intention? How did you know the answer was human?
He was the one who wants to drink and drive.
You know why? It's because he makes fun of you when you're not paying attention. That's exactly how he does it.
yeah, whose jacket did you copy?
Closer.
The host with the same shoes. That's right.
Hey, speaking of imitation, yeah, look at
I
these
know.
guys.
It's matching.
We coordinate.
Humans are very matchy. We really like to do
Yeah,
that.
I said I gotta have his shoes, your glasses.
Yeah.
You're a drinking
So,
problem. I got
you know, there's one of the famous studies that shows this is you show a human child, a highly, you bring out a box that has all kinds of extra gizmos attached to it.
And they'll play with the box.
Whirly gigs, they'll certainly play with the box. You teach them a highly theatrical way of opening it. First you do this, and then you're going to tap it 3 times, and then you stand and you turn in a circle, and then you're going to do this. And the kid will every time imitate you to a T to then open the box and get the candy inside.
That is the most fucked up thing a parent can do.
Well, we do it all the time, right? You bring a dog into that room and you show them theatricality and whatever it is. The hardwiring of their brain just filters all that out and says, treat in the box, and they pop the because that's all they have to do and get the treat every time, right? They say like, if you think of it as a function of brain power, right? Ants, you could argue, okay, these are really imitative species too, but they all go off on their own way to find their thing. They only start imitating each other when food is the reward. We, for no reason at all, just begin to be like, oh, that guy is wearing a blazer, I'm going to wear a blazer.
You guys voting for the fascist? I'm gonna vote for the fascist.
So, yeah.
Okay, so this is an example about kids, and kids imitate. Kids have more neuroplasticity than adults do. So it almost like the mimicking is a little stronger in a sense, I guess.
In children.
In children,
Sure,
sure. But here's an example that I found to be profoundly fascinating. Maybe you guys saw this one, and it's when you give a human a sequence, it's like a 9-square box, and there's 9 squares, and the human has to follow the sequence in order to earn the prize afterward. And as soon as it gets to like 7 or 8 to memorize in the working memory to follow, they fail. But then when you allow an ape to do it, the ape's working memory is significantly better because they're like, I'm getting that damn banana.
Right.
And so, just curious.
How do you account for that?
Wait.
So I would say, please.
Sorry, no, but I thought that was also part of our short-term memories, that it's, our short-term memory can only hold like 7 things at a time.
Yeah, 7 plus or minus 2, yeah.
So if you lock a human in a cage and it doesn't have its own food, it'll work harder, I think.
I feel like this is how the Planet of the Apes started. Was kind of shit. They're like, hit the buttons to get the banana, little monkey, and then next thing you know, Caesar is running in the redwood forest.
That's right. Well, so the scientists would say the distinction is the ape is vastly more efficient and effective at getting a reward out of it. And when there's a reward at the end of it, yeah, they'll go hard at that. But it's not because they are looking at another ape who's doing something totally nonsensical and just going ahead mimicking them. If you click to my visualization, there's this famous experiment where they would take people out into the street, and they take a group they take one person and have them look up at the sky, and people just stream past them. You get 5 people looking at the sky. There's no apparent reward. There's no banana involved. It's just people being like, oh. Everybody on the block stops. You can create a whole crowd of people that will look up.
I don't know if you've heard of these things called drones, but you can't really see them.
That's like drones, right?
It would be weird if you got everyone staring up and suddenly someone said, oh, you got a banana now.
Yeah.
Who does
That's right.
that?
That's right.
Maybe they were dropping bananas
Right.
So Jake, there's nothing up there.
No.
People are, there's not. Okay, so then what about, so here's another one for adults. So the one that I said earlier is about working memory. Sure, there's a reward. And then you guys have seen the video where the person's waiting in a lobby, and then somebody else walks in, and the person that's waiting in the lobby, every time there's a buzzer goes off, or bing, goes off, the person stands up, and then sits back down. And then the people just come in, and they're like, why is this person standing up? I'm going to miss out. And they stand up at the bing, and they sit back down too.
Right.
And so, again, there's no, my bad. So there's no, there's no reward there.
Right.
Why are we irrational like that? Why would I go in and still stand up when I'm like?
Well, so, you know, it's funny, the people that do the absolutely smartest work on measuring the effects of this and just how consistently we do this as humans seem to have absolutely no interest in the why. It's really interesting. They just
want to control the humans.
Yeah, well, they want to understand the behavior and quantify it, and so that no one can accuse them of being soft scientists. And they're very focused on that. Whereas the people that the evolutionary biologists have all kinds of interesting explanations as to like there's this, I love this one study that people did where they did a study to figure out what's the grossest sound to humans on the planet.
Moist.
And you can imagine, yeah, it's a moist one. It's definitely a moist one. So they did all these different things, sort of.
Is it using farts to cook your food?
That'd be the grossest, most delicious.
Farts to cook food.
Farts to cook food.
They discovered it's vomiting. Vomiting, of course it is. And I love it. And we asked the researchers, so how did you emulate that? And they're like, oh, well, we had the one grad student being like, blah, blah, and then we had another grad student sloshing a big bucket of beans into another bucket of beans just to emulate the sound. And they would play it for people, and people like in the lab setting with their headphones on, and it sets off an unconscious thing, and it's because they think, the evolutionary biologists think, one person takes a bite of the diseased antelope leg and throws up, and everybody else crowded around the fire is like, oh shit, I'm not eating that. And that is how we stay alive.
It doesn't work with like pooping, right?
So, and you don't have time to like smell the antelope thing, check it out, and so forth. You need to know now. Don't eat that.
This is totally reptilian. So this is my unconscious. I'm firing without even caring, because this is all about if I don't respond, if I don't fight or flight here, then I'm going to lose out on this buzzer standing up in a lobby.
It's part of our ancient, like sorority fraternity brain, right?
I've never heard that. That's funny. I've never heard that before. In this case, what I love about this picture is that these people are dressed in these sophisticated outfits. They have all these subtle and interesting things going on in their lives, but inside their brains, this hardwired thing makes them go, what? Look up at the sky. And it's for so many things that we do as humans.
I don't know if you guys know this, but this is the actual moment the iceberg hit the Titanic.
Yeah. Coming in.
Oh, there's Leo.
Let's go on to our next question.
So there's a very brilliant guy that I've been talking to a lot. There's a great guy. It takes him. He's a behavioral researcher, works with kids. It takes him 5 minutes to teach children to ostracize one another based on this one variable.
This sounds like the greatest.
Okay, I know you're all bullied.
If they vomited is a good one, but.
All right, hold on just a second. We have some answers.
This one's hard.
All right.
Wait, what's the question? Oh.
Eye color.
Eye color is close.
Okay.
All right.
Any notable difference?
That's very right. That is true. I mean, I don't know if that's too broad.
Is that the answer though?
Let's hear a couple more, but I think that guy's pretty much right.
That's pretty much.
That's it, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Eureka.
So any visible difference?
Yeah. So shirt color. 5 minutes. You sit a kid down and you say, you're on the orange team. Put him in a shirt. Him or her, doesn't matter. And then you begin showing them pictures of other kids in another shirt. There's a green team and there's an orange team. You're on the orange team. Here are kids on the green team, here are kids on the orange team. And you show them pictures that have sort of ambiguous situations. One of them is a kid standing up with a swing in front of him, and another kid is lying on the ground crying in front of the swing. If I'm on the orange team and I see that picture, and the kid standing is in an orange shirt, I say, oh, he's helping that crying kid. If I'm in a green shirt, it says, he pushed him off the swing. Like that. Like that. And it has much more to do, supposedly, with giving the benefit of the doubt to the person wearing your shirt than it does have to do with ostracizing or chastising the other person. But you will instantaneously make these decisions about it.
And
5 minutes.
And if the kid's colorblind, he's like, can I ride the
He's
swing
out of
now?
the test. He is out of the room.
This is also how Fox News works.
Well, yes. That is my man.
Okay, wait, speak about the other half too. It's how CNN works as well, okay?
True.
Wait, red shirt, orange shirt. Whoa, guys!
Get your green shirt out of here.
He pushed him.
right.
Honestly though, how nerdy is that kid with a touch shirt in?
So,
What are we in third grade now?
It hasn't even been 5 minutes. What kind of a monster are you?
She was triggered immediately.
Alright, we're gonna take a quick question.
Did they try multiple shirts, or is there an underdog effect going on with that? Like,
say more about that.
What about no shirts like GQ?
We're more
mesh
likely
shirt?
to sympathize with the kid that got pushed off the swing and join his team
I
rather
see.
than be the offender.
So in this case, he was only measuring whether the kid gave a sympathetic response to the person in the same shirt or to the person in the opposite shirt. He didn't. I think there was some accounting for the underdog effect, if I remember correctly, but this is again fake news, and I don't want to go too far into that. I think that as I understand the big takeaway, and I'm literally on Tuesday I do my big interview with this guy, was just this thing of giving the benefit of the doubt to people who look like you. And this gets carried through into all kinds of tasks, including
Racism.
We don't want to say racism, but
it's very, yeah, it's not
called
just tribal. Oh, the tribal helps,
T-shirtism.
right? And in this case,
T-shirtism.
in this case, they were well, so yeah, it's very, very complicated. So I talked to this guy, I'm like, well, what the fuck did we do with that? Like, that's really bad. And he says, well, it is. He says, but
Kids go shirtless.
he says, you know that there was a great bumper sticker going around during the election season that said it was all the election logo and everything, but it said Giant Meteor 2016, right? He thought that was the greatest thing in the world because
Either party could love that.
everybody,
Yeah.
well, and everybody
Yeah.
thinks the giant meteor is not on your side.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
The alien, he says the greatest thing that could ever happen for world peace by his findings is that we all group together on the same team. And he says that you can take the most vitriolic, prejudiced people and put them together with other people who hate them. And as long as they're all Cavs fans, doesn't matter. They'll get along. It can work.
So
It can work on our sides.
LeBron really is a guy.
As if the orange team or the green team, as long as the Cavs jersey is on the front.
So if I have 40 things that I hate about the person, but one thing that we're similar with, it would be fine?
Well, as long as that thing is passionate.
So
as
like,
long as that thing
if
is
we
passionate.
all see each other as like human beings, would that like...
Well, what if somebody hated me?
World peace. Let's give a round of applause for world
Well,
peace.
What if somebody hated me and I said, hold on, bro, let me just take my shirt off. I'm looking at you, buddy. You know?
We're all
All right,
skins.
shirts
And
off.
then everyone unites behind putting my shirt back on.
Shirts off.
Probably. I will
All right.
keep your shirt.
Orange wigs for everyone.
This guy's, the baby man's ready. Is that him? I don't know.
All right, last question.
Last one. So, and this is the big theme of our show and of the book I'm writing. According to the latest research, what is the number one aspect of our consciousness that we use to make decisions, right? Creativity, curiosity, like what are we doing when we make
Fears,
decisions?
any thoughts?
Facebook feed.
How
Facebook
many
feed.
Twitter followers I have?
All right,
Fear is-
hold on.
fear is
Let's
close.
get people that haven't answered.
I don't know, it might be hunger
Is it
sometimes.
love? Is it...
Fear is in there. Fear is
in there.
Fear is in
What if
there.
you're not conscious?
And what if you're not woke?
Okay, we
Yeah.
trust.
Not, he's not woken
Good.
up.
All right, hold on.
Emotion.
Eureka!
That's
Come
right.
on
That's
down.
right.
Oh, now we have a production.
We know you're a very emotional person. We'll sue. So what better than some Kleenex? Wipe the tears away.
more usable than the baby, let's be real.
You can use that with the baby.
Yeah, you can use
More
that.
useful than a baby in the
Yeah.
Cheaper to replace.
Yeah, our self-image is as of creative, thoughtful, patient, fair, inquisitive, statistically driven people. But all of the latest research into behavioral psychology is basically showing us that we make our decisions with our guts, with our emotions, and that's the evolutionary biologists would tell you it's because it's a shorthand way of surviving in the world. There's an amazing Cedric the Entertainer routine where he does this thing about how when he sees other black people run, he's got to run. He's just like, you got to run.
It's a good joke.
Go,
It's a good joke.
go, and it's like he's totally summarizing the whole thing, which is that there is a shorthand survival system that outsources our incredibly difficult decision-making system when it relies on our conscious thoughts to our emotions, which take no time, no energy, no effectiveness. One piece of research shows that if a snake comes into the room, and
They're supposed to be on the plane.
you are good. Yeah, exactly. The reason that movie, that's right. The reason that movie works as well as it does is because it has shown us that if a snake comes into the room, right, I am out of my chair, I throw the mic, and I get out before I
was waiting for somebody to make a charming joke.
Yeah,
Fuck you.
yeah. Before I consciously register that it is a snake, before my brain knows, oh, S-N-A-K-E, that's a snake, my emotions make me afraid of it, because that's what has kept us alive for so long,
I 99% believe that.
So this thing, it's a 99% probability, trust me. So this thing of the fundamental thing is, we think we are making decisions with our conscious minds, but we are actually making decisions with our emotions all of the time. And the thing is, for 99.99% of human history, that's been a great strategy, and it's been working really, really well for us. But now we've invented fucking cars and phones and trans fats and all kinds of stuff that we are not built for. There's this great little shorthand for supposedly, the reason that we're so into certain tastes is because they are shorthand for getting us into eating the right foods. The glutamate in meat and the sugary taste of carbs. These things were shorthand ways of us to make decisions, and that's why cheesecake tastes so delicious. But you can't eat cheesecake all the time, right? That's not good for you. You can't.
You don't know my life, sir. But you don't know my life.
But for 99.99% of human history, cheesecake wasn't
for
a problem.
everybody.
This is not what I
So American buyer dough, which makes sense, like Cedric said, when he sees other black people run, he runs. Like when I see another white person buy a coffee or a latte, I'm like, I gotta buy it.
Or a blazer.
That might be really good.
Blazer. I
bought this before the show. I saw him, like, oh god, I got it.
I have the same thing in reverse. If I ever go into a restaurant, it's an ethnic restaurant, there's a bunch of white people there, I leave. I'm like, this is not good. You just has to be taken.
Don't order
a white.
What's Kevin having? I don't want that. That's probably bland.
Jake, a quick follow-up to this last question. So,
yeah.
Within the emotions in the primordial brain, which we've been talking about, a lot of it's been tribal over the years, and that's how it's developed. What do you think about the word mysticism? How much of this could potentially be how much of this could be mystic and not as much so science?
So, yeah.
Is that, what percent is that?
Yeah.
It's tough, right?
50-50.
So one of the things that these researchers say, right, is that the brain is also very, very good at after a circumstance. If you give somebody an unstructured set of facts, one of the first things that we do if we're given the conscious task of making sense of those facts is we build a story out of those facts. Conspiracy theory is a great example of that kind of story. That's right. But one could argue, right, that all of the random facts of history that are assembled then together into becoming a history of the United States or a history of something, right? All of that is stuff where we have built it into a story, a conspiracy theory in our brain. And so, and supposedly if you trick someone into taking on a new behavior, like exercise, they often report things like, well, I always knew that there was a fit person inside me trying to get out. You know, we tell stories about ourselves and our decision making to help explain it to ourselves, make sense of it for ourselves. The problem is, we tend to then, as a result, believe stories that make sense to us vastly quicker than we do random facts that we cannot. Holy fuck, I have been really fucking shit up for a long time, telling stories out of shit that I don't know anything about, you know? And there's all kinds of stuff, they've documented stuff like the recency bias, where the most recent information you get, you tend to think is the right information, right? Journalists, you know, are under pressure right now, are quoting the first person they can get on the horn, right? And not that anyone gets on horns anymore, but, you know, that's how
Or they can wiretap.
but that right there, right, I'm like, oh, that explains a whole category of problem journalism right now, you know, like, so, to me, when you see, you know, in movie after movie after movie, right, Neo says to the two surviving members of the Nebuchadnezzar, I know, he's in there. He's in the Matrix and we can't get him out. I know it's impossible. I know all the facts. I know the statistics. I know 99%, 1%, 100%, 1%, 50-50. But I have a gut feeling. I just feel it that I'm going to be able to save him. That's what they say. Like, why? How do you know, Neo? That's that guy's like one line. He says, I have a feeling. Feel it, right?
There may be something buried a little deeper inside that gut feeling.
No, I'm saying it's bullshit. I'm saying it's bullshit. And it is one of the great destructive forces of human life. But
Can we get an amen?
But there is also, by virtue of that thing, right, some psychologists call it transitional phenomena, where you and I agree that the illusion is real, and that is why we don't collide on the highway. We stay in our own lanes on the highway, and why we exchange money and agree that it means something, and why we don't kill each other. You know, all of that stuff is part of the story we are telling one another. So I'm not saying that it is bad in all forms, but do I believe that your gut leads you to make the right decision all the time? No. And do I believe that there is a higher power that's listening to it? I have to say I do not. But
the mystical gut.
The mystical gut. So this
Wait,
it's been a very disturbing project.
I want to just change up that thought just a little bit. So the factor that I want to explain here is you said a lot about, we're talking a lot about reptilian brains, we're talking a lot about tribalism and how that's kind of formed us to where we are today, making these decisions about teams, and making these decisions when we read something, recency bias. So my thought is, though, that everybody tends to just blast the word science. Science on this, science on that. It's the neuroscience of this. Right. It is the recency bias. And we put words on things to describe them to make us feel good. Sure. Because that way we know,
storytelling.
We know it. Storytelling. Yeah. So what I'm saying is there something that just can't be explained?
Oh, sure.
So that it just is, right?
Yes.
So
I would say
isn't that just something we haven't researched yet?
That's
right?
what I'm getting at.
And I'm sorry, I got
we don't know yet. It's just not researched. We haven't gotten into it yet. That's what that means.
You know, like there, you'll see very respected. There's this amazing story of this guy Kardashev, who was a Soviet era astrophysicist and was investigating deep space, and he was
Kardashev scale.
The Kardashev scale, exactly. So he's Kardashev. This is another thing I don't know how to pronounce.
He's related to the other Kardashians, right?
I've in fact never heard of this.
The smaller one, or
Kardashev scale.
Kardashev is how you say it. I've been saying Kardashev forever.
It's
That's
fine.
terrible.
You can say Kardashev. It's not. It's Lagos, right?
Well, still, I'd like to.
The word. And again, the pronunciation. It's like who really, truly. It's like
science.
I care.
As a TV reporter, you get a lot of trouble. You don't do it. So, but I hear you. So,
I feel like a Russian person would be like, it really means a lot to get it right.
That's how I feel.
Words.
I take
words, trying to put words on concepts. I'm so I've meditated a lot, and so when I lose my ego, I forget about why it's so important to put these crazy complex words on all these biotech, astrophysics, Kardashev scale concepts, and I'm just like, Wow.
Is he rapping?
Life is.
That's just Burning Man hip hop.
I like that. I respect that. I respect that. I think that there is a, so the reason I bring him up is that he detected these signals coming from deep space that were regular and mechanical and that nobody could understand what the hell they were. And so they came up with a story for it, which was that it must be transmissions from aliens. They just thought there's no other explanation, some mechanical signal coming from space. And then they discovered that it was in fact pulsars. Sorry, quasars? Pulsars? Pulsar. You know, which rotate and send the thing out in a regular way. So, and now you see, just the other day, a couple of Harvard astrophysicists were also talking about fast speed bursts from deep space and also thinking, oh, it must be aliens. It's like ancient aliens and all that stuff where like we like to invent stories for things. What I hope in the work that I do and the work that all the smart people who have made it for me to do my work are doing is I want us to be more comfortable with uncertainty and the void.
Yes.
I want us to just go.
Yeah.
I think we're on the same page.
Yeah, and this has been a wonderful story tonight that you have told us, right? Can we give a round of applause?
Thank you.
For a great storyteller.
Thank you, everybody.
And of course, for our comedians here, myself. Thank you, people of my comedy show. Everybody. Of course. And of course, you can't have a story without people listening, so that's all of you. Thank you, guys. Excellent.
And before we end it, we just want to touch on our next guest scientist that will be coming. We'll have Ariel Waldman, who works with NASA, NIAC, the Innovative Advanced Concepts Division. And also she's the author of What's It Like in Space, where she went and interviewed there's 500 people and 550 people have been in space, but she's interviewed a lot of them, and she's also found our Science Hack Day, which inspires young kids to get together and hack together scientific concepts. Highly recommend to bring your kids there. Also get them into Bits Box and First Robotics and all these other kinds of engineering things to get them going in life. And you guys can follow us online. Our website will have all of the past shows on it. It has all of our upcoming shows on it. So you guys can easily keep track of us there. Follow us on Twitter, on Facebook as well to keep in touch and join the conversation. Let us know what you like about the shows, what you think could be better about them. We'd love to chat with you on there, so please give us feedback. Keep bringing friends.
Spread the word, people.
Yeah, nerds and geek nights like this, are they the best?
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and we got the comedy side of things too, making you laugh along the way. So please share this. Our #1 thing right now is to share this with more people in the Bay. Bring your friends.